That was Mr. Nat Cole playing Unforgettable, which introduces the Viewpoint program. Unforgettable as it is.
That's what you are.
Our guests this morning are a couple of illustrious gentlemen. We're going to bring them aboard very quickly. Gentlemen, you may recall the way I try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or something. I would, Mr. Thomas is aware, Larry, that we just erected a new statue on the courthouse square of Old Honest Abe. And that was I'm not sure of the genesis of that project, but kudos to those who started that project, and maybe perhaps more importantly, kudos to those who whopped up some money for that. There were a lot of individual contributors to that project. It'll be there in the courthouse square for all of us to enjoy from here to eternity, as the movie said. So, kudos to those folks who popped off with a nickel or two and a lot more in many cases. So,
did you see the photos that were printed of the group standing by the statue after it was installed? What I enjoyed, Bill, was it's a life-size replica of Lincoln, and it stands on maybe what looks to be a 5-inch base, but oh my gosh, it just gives you a real perspective as to how tall that man was when you look at everybody else standing next to him.
Yeah, well, this is probably a good time for confession as any. I haven't gotten out of the car and gone up there and taken a good look at that yet, and but they're going to have a dedication of that soon.
Yes.
So that's when we all should. By the way, I encourage a lot of people to show up for that. That courthouse square is big enough; it'll hold a few people. Yeah. So. Our guest this morning, Larry Thomas, or Bill Thomas and Larry Peterson. I'll get you guys right between now and October.
We can change our names if that's easier.
Well, Bill is a well-known mover and shaker here in Logan County, northern Logan County, up here in Atlanta. I got to know Bill. I've said this before, personal aside, when he was school administrator, and my grandchildren were in the Atlanta grade school system. And I'm very happy that that occasion occurred, because it's developed into a warm friendship and one of respect. Larry Peterson. Larry's also involved here with an accelerated training program, and I think that it's called National Careers Readiness Certification. Would that be correct?
That's part of it.
Well,
yeah.
That is not the exact program.
Our program is called the Manufacturing Accelerated Training for Manufacturing.
Okay.
So it's
well, that's just a lot of verbiage.
Oh yes, that's why we use those initials.
Acronyms for that. Yeah. All right. We're going to talk about helping people find job skills so they can find work. That'd be the essence of the whole thing.
It.
That boils it down, doesn't it?
That's right.
I asked you off air about the genesis of this program, how it got started, and I think it's terribly important to understand the background and the goal in these troubled economic times for a lot of folks who just simply do not have the skills or had an opportunity to acquire those skills. And it's quite important. So let's go quickly to the genesis of the program and its ultimate goal.
Sure, I think that's quite important. And we're all taxpayers, and we are using taxpayers' dollars to help, what you said, find people to get gainful employment in areas that manufacturers need here in Central Illinois. So yes, go back about 3 years, Department of Labor gave states and different communities monies to fund training programs, but the training programs had to be very much focused on what local manufacturers required. So
that's important.
Yes, it's very specific. It's not generic. So a group of what they call workforce centers got together in Central Illinois, Danville to Champaign, Decatur, Springfield, all the way over to Quincy, and they hired me as a project manager to coordinate the recruitment of individuals, talk to the industries, and then also talk to the training providers like Heartland Community College, Richland Community College, Lincoln Land, to provide the training that these manufacturers needed. And I'll just close with, the types of training they said. It'd be like welding, certain types of welding, machining that the manufacturers needed, as well as the basic skills for the basic how to be a good assembler person to get your first job in manufacturing.
You mentioned one of the skills, the trades, very important, is that of an electrician. And I noted that in the program that does include that type of training.
Yeah, there's parts of electricians, parts of training that we're providing would be what they call mechatronics, another fancy word for machine repair. You can imagine these companies have very sophisticated machines as well as some very old machines that need repair, and the skilled workers that have been around for 40 years are now retiring. So they need new blood, no matter what age, but if you've got some technical skills, electricians especially, you can find a job anywhere in Illinois. I won't mention the company, but there's in one of our communities, they're actually looking at paying people to move to an area if they have those electrical skills, and then give them a bonus, a sign-on bonus to stay in that community and help.
To get to the point, gentlemen, how would one make application? If there's somebody out here or over in Adams County or wherever, how do they find out about this and make application so that they can benefit from this program?
Bill, why don't you talk about that and I'll add on to it.
Sure. First and foremost, Bill, there are 2 information sessions that are being offered that are open to the public, anyone who's interested in learning more about this training program. The first is on Tuesday, May 19th at 4 p.m., and it'll be at the downtown Lincoln Center of Heartland Community College. Again, that's Tuesday, May 19th at 4 o'clock. And then there's another one that same week on Friday, May 22nd at noon, also at Heartland Community College's downtown center in Lincoln, Illinois. So you can go there and learn about the particulars of the program, see if you're going to qualify. I believe you could apply right then if you want to. You can also, Larry, help me out, I believe you can go online to the Accelerated Training for Illinois Manufacturing website. It's a rather long URL, www.ilworknetmanufacturing.com/ATIM app. Or there are a couple phone numbers you can call and find out how to apply. One is 217-651-8193, or you can call my office number up here in Atlanta, 217-820-5077. So
now, tell me the age spectrum here.
Sure.
There has to be a minimum. Well, I'm certain somewhere in the.
I think you'd qualify, Bill, if that's what you're asking.
We have all ages.
Spades.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to work and you have the skills, they're out there looking
I'm
for
kind
you.
of enjoying this retirement business.
A lot of people are. That's the problem. They've left some jobs open, but the minimum age, 18 years or older, and all the way to any age.
Men in his 50s?
Oh, exactly. We had one of the
Really?
coal mines have closed in this area.
Yes.
A gentleman needed to find new skills or brush up on his skills. He had skills very specific to the repair of mining equipment.
Sure.
He came through our course, and I can tell you he got a job at Eaton in their maintenance manufacturing. They're training him to repair the machines there. Sort of like an apprentice program, not exactly
Sure,
apprentice.
I understand.
But boy, he was 50-some years old.
That's
Had a lot of experience.
That's a godsend.
Well,
Yes.
Dependable.
Yeah, just the kind of employee Eaton and others are looking for, too.
Yeah, that's kind of a two-way godsend, if you please. The employer is glad to have somebody who knows about work and dependability. That
Exactly.
being the key word.
Yeah, that's something we always hear from the manufacturers when we talk with them is it's an ongoing struggle, especially, unfortunately, with some of the younger folks that apply for positions. They just maybe haven't fine-tuned their dependability and responsibility skills, let's put it that way. Showing up on time, following orders, working well in a team, all of those characteristics.
Can't learn that young enough. I'll
No,
tell
you
that.
can't. You can't.
But ultimately, when you have somebody who exhibits those skills, they're employable.
Yeah.
Now, you're in concert with the local firms here. Eaton, you've mentioned.
Yes.
And I've gone blank on the other firms.
Oh, some of the others.
Locally.
Because what we did, and what I found to be one of the more exciting and enjoyable parts of this whole project, Bill, was several weeks ago we convened what we call a manufacturers council. And what we did was we simply invited representatives from Eaton, Precision Products in Lincoln, International Paper, Heritage Packaging, Inland Tool, the Bottle Factory, all the major manufacturers across the county to come together. Eaton hosted the meeting for us, and the sole purpose was for us to listen to them. What are you looking for? What are your training needs? What do you want to see in employees that apply for positions with your companies? And then we worked with Heartland Community College, and based upon what the manufacturers said they were looking for, we put together the curriculum for this training program.
I think what's really interesting with this Manufacturers Council is this is the second time now in Lincoln that we will be offering the courses. So not only were we asking the employers what they wanted, but how did the first go-around go? And your listeners are probably very interested. Our first class about a year ago, it ended actually in November. We, through our selection process, which there is a selection process, had 8 students in this class, and it went through in 8 weeks. Very accelerated, had good training. They obtained their certificates through testing, protocol testing. Well, 4 of those received manufacturing jobs. Actually, out of the other 4, 3 have productive uses. One still looking for something. Not a bad record. 4 into manufacturing, 3 in other good areas after our training. So the manufacturers have agreed to look at the program, and we're talking about the Certified Production Technician Program, CPT. And what it does, it teaches them safety, which is the primary emphasis of all manufacturers. So they have a good background in safety, quality and measurement, manufacturing processes, and even mechanical maintenance, awareness of those machines around them, what it takes to keep them updated so they can call the repairman or the repair person to come and fix them. So those 4 areas are what's taught in this accelerated fashion.
Now, gender. Do we have any? It's important. There are a lot of ladies out there.
Oh, yes.
That are important to the workforce.
I just visited Eaton, and 2 of our people from Lincoln area. One was a lady, and
From last year's program.
yes. So gender is not a problem. Sometimes you think of manufacturing as big, heavy lifting, and nowadays you can't lift real heavy stuff. Machines have to do it, but you have to have the aptitude, and women are as good on the assembly line as Rosie the Riveter.
Oh, right. Well, that started when
Right.
Exactly.
Bottom line qualifications for the program. You have to be classified as either unemployed or underemployed, and as Larry said, 18 years old, have to have at least a GED, correct?
Not in this case.
Oh, not in this case? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You do have to pass a drug test.
I'd like to think so.
Yep.
That's right.
Seriously.
No, you do. It
yeah,
makes perfect sense,
that should
and
be.
the employers want that. So,
Oh, I would think, yes.
and then it's open to men and women.
Now, a lot of youngsters graduate from high school under the age of 18. There are a few, perhaps a lot. But by the time they become 18, is this a program that would be helpful to them? The real world says that a lot of folks are not college material. And by the by, a 4-year degree in liberal arts isn't worth a hell of a lot today anyway, Which not to put down, you know how strong I am about college. But the real world says there are a lot of youngsters that are simply not ready for college.
Well, you're asking us the questions we want you to ask, so I'm glad the money we gave you is paying off, Bill. I really appreciate that.
So let's...
Well, this go my expense account.
Right.
Let's direct the conversation to that end. This should be a real bonanza for people in that category.
Yeah, you want to tell them what we're doing in terms of recruiting?
This is great.
That
We
way,
need
yeah.
hands-on.
Yeah.
We need this, the the skills,
Yes.
manual skills.
Yes, I think you're exactly right, and I think the high schools, some are more progressive than others in helping their students look at the future. Now, everybody, as you said, is not college bound or even community college bound. I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were comparing the effectiveness of their degrees 20 years into the workforce, and a 4-year education did not measure up to what the 2-year people were doing, let alone the certificate type programs. And this is what the Manufacturing Association are talking about, is there's good jobs, long-term jobs in manufacturing, but you have to have the skills and the aptitude. But it's not the dirty old environment. It's very clean and safe and a worthwhile living. But go back to your age question. What we are doing is going into the high schools, especially in this area, and talking to the high school counselors, showing them the application. Just what Bill said. The only other caveat is that it's a program where you get this free training. It's very important. This is free. You don't have to pay a tuition, but you have to qualify for it by being in a low-income family. So let's say a student that it does reach 18 years older by graduation time, because we're going to start this program early June.
Sure.
They do have to be 18, have registered for the selective service, but then there will be some qualifiers as far as income, as well as their aptitude. In rural central Illinois, you can't believe how many human resource department heads I talk to. They will take, and I don't want to just classify somebody that comes from the farm, but the rural ethic sometimes is good, that they've had to work
You bet.
at home, on the farm, in the community to help make ends meet. They've already shown what it takes, to be a participant in the economy. So they want young people. In fact, this is one thing we found out from the Manufacturers Council. They said, are you discounting young people? We'll take young people and give them the right training.
So which schools have you been to, actually, or contacted?
I went over to Mount Pulaski. We've done Lincoln. We're doing Olympia, the district. So any people that have within traveling distance, we have participants that can come from Bloomington if they so choose, from Springfield. So we'll take anybody that wants to get this training and get them into the application process.
And it's hard for me to believe, cynic that I am about the federal government, that we would come up with a program that would be so meaningful.
Well, I think what makes it meaningful and a little different from a lot of government programs, rather than somebody ahead of time putting together the content of the program and saying, here, this is what we're going to offer you. What I really like about this is, no, we met with the folks who are the actual manufacturers themselves first and said, what do you want in this? So we're actually focusing on their needs, not just trying to decide ourselves ahead of time what would be good for them.
Gone to the old builder's maxim, start with a good foundation.
Yes.
And that's how this thing is going to develop. And if we don't honor our sponsors, we won't have a good foundation for Viewpoint. So at this point in time, we'll acknowledge those fine folks out there. Go ahead, Mr. Jim. All right, we're right back here live in the studio. Oh, by the way, perhaps I should say that some of the folks are waiting for the real strength of Viewpoint, Mrs. Busby, and they miss her soft tones this morning. We're going to get her out of the Betty Ford Clinic by tonight. Yes, yeah. No, seriously, she's visiting.
Well, you don't ever want to miss a program around here, do you?
She's visiting a brother who was injured up in Minnesota. She'll get back here next week. Oh, we'll have her nice daughter on next week, too. So that'll be a fun thing. All right. This morning we're talking with Bill Thomas and Larry Peterson, and we're talking about jobs, and more specifically right here in Lincoln-Logan County, and how to get training for these jobs and their partnership with our various manufacturers in this community. I think that's a wonderful thing. Off air, we were talking about the community and so forth, and the various organizations. Mr. Ash raised a question, and I'll pass the baton to Mr. Thomas on that question, sir.
Well, Mr. Ash, as he's officially known, asked if I was still with the Economic Development Office in the county, and I said yes. As a matter of fact, they actually hired me full-time last December. I'm no longer just interim director. I'm now director of the Logan County Economic Development Partnership. And he was, like a lot of folks, asking probably because he's a little confused over, well, who actually does economic development stuff in the county now? And I understand why somebody would ask a question like that, because, to be frank, last year was a little bit confusing as regards all the efforts to combine various organizations and figure out who was going to do what. But I'll try to simplify this as much as I can and explain where things stand now.
All right.
We do have an organization in the county now called the Logan County Alliance, and that is a combination of what used to be the Tourism Bureau, Main Street Lincoln, and the Chamber of Commerce. The Economic Development Partnership was invited to join that group last year, but it chose not to. So we now really actually have two different organizations that focus on economic development. The Logan County Economic Development Partnership that I'm director of, and then the Logan County Alliance also has what they refer to as an Economic Development Council. That's actually headed up by a friend of mine and one of our good manufacturers in Lincoln, Greg Bassford, who runs Heritage Packaging.
Heritage Packaging, yes.
And what I'm just really pleased to report is, a few weeks ago, I started some conversations with Clay Johnson, the city administrator of Lincoln, and then we also expanded that, had some conversations with Greg, and then I think it was last Tuesday, Clay, Greg Johnson, Chuck Rubin from the county board, who sits on our Economic Development Partnership board, Andy Hake, who's executive director of the Logan County Alliance, we all got together and met, and bottom line, the way I would state it is, decided the past is the past, and what we can best do is to work together for the betterment of all of Logan County. So that's what we're doing. And I have a very specific case in point of something that we're doing. Our office is working with Clay and the city of Lincoln in order to help it increase its chances to maybe get some additional federal monies for completion of the 5th Street Road project, which is long overdue, but because we haven't been able to fill the final financial gap of money that is needed, well, there's an opportunity now to apply to a specific federal grant program and fill that monetary gap and get money to actually finish that project. So overall, I'm just very excited that we're working together.
That's locally, as Larry, if you excuse a local approach just a minute, that bodes very well for us. Those of us who are in my scheme of life particularly appreciate that there's an opportunity to move forward because we've been in kind of a malaise, so to speak, without casting any aspersions in any directions, just a matter of the way it is, or was. And I'm delighted. By the way, James, your off-air question opened up a whole new subject for us this morning, not germane to what we have these gentlemen who are with us this morning, but it's great to know, Bill, that, as you put it, forget the past, let's move on, and they're working together with a common goal. So, thank you.
Right. Well, I'm very excited about it.
The 648-5510, by the by, if anybody has comments or questions. Let's get back to job training. By the way, through church affiliation, I have been participating in Jobs for Life, which has been a project of the economic development people out there on 5th Street Road.
Well, I don't know if I know what that is, Bill.
Well, there are three people in particular have been going through a class for a couple of months here now on basic training about interviews and just general prepping. And very soon now we're going to have a quote graduation for these folks, 3 of them. Hardworking, sincere people who have not been able to connect with the job force in the manner in which they would like to be connected. So it's a kind of a little ancillary program that fills a need for some folks.
I'm really excited to hear that. I'm drawing a blank as to the name of the agency out on 5th Street Road.
Central Economic Development Corporation. CEIDC.
That's right. I think. Okay. Yeah. That's wonderful because it takes a lot of different programs to address the overall issue of unemployment. I think it can't just be one effort. And I have one piece of data that I found out about last night. Actually, Doc Hepler, chairman of the county board, gave me some information last night at the county board meeting, and I was thrilled to see it was a comparison of unemployment figures for central Illinois counties, comparing last year to this year. And would you believe that Logan County's unemployment rate has gone down 2.1% since last year?
That's great.
Now, I can't attribute that to any one single program, but that's why I say
you could do that.
No.
It's
if you take them all in combination, it's actually they're actually having an impact. So that's really exciting.
You know what? I might add something to that because of all these cooperative type programs. What you were just mentioning there, Bill, the Springfield office of what they call the Illinois WorkNet Centers, they have a representative here in Lincoln 2 times a week. Kyle Meinert is his name, and his office is located in the downtown Heartland Center, right there on the square. And this is where people that a good first stop place to say, hey, I'm out of work, I'm looking for work, I need assistance, what can you do for me? I mean, you mentioned resume writing, interviewing skills. They have a computer lab where they can get online and do this stuff. Besides the personal contact with a real life person, I guess that's personal, where they can help guide them to wherever they want to, go with an employment situation. So Kyle is also one of our point people. When people say, oh, I heard about this thing on the radio, go down to the center. The Heartland people know about our program. They have the flyers, but they can also say, you want to schedule an appointment or just come in on the day that Kyle's here, and he'll tell you a little bit about this program, and then be sure to come to the information meeting in a couple of weeks on that Tuesday or the Friday.
Larry mentioned a very, very specific need, Bill, and that is how to write a resume. Unfortunately, and I know I'm going to get kicked by some of my education friends, but we're turning folks out on the street without a basic spelling accomplishment. Old geezer like me reads these things, and I see a simple word like there, E-I-R or E-R-E.
Right.
I know that's a little thing, but
it's not a little thing to an employer.
Well, that's
I understand what you're saying, Bill.
That's my point. These youngsters are being put out of our education system without the necessary requisite, I guess those are concomitant, but anyway, without the skills so basic as they are. And as Bill Thomas says, if I'm an employer sitting there looking over somebody's resume and I see things like that, and I've got maybe a couple different people to judge, who's going to get the nod?
Precisely. We, at this Manufacturers Council meeting, one item that the manufacturers brought up to us, they love the program. We're talking about some lean manufacturing techniques. You and I didn't know 10 years ago what lean manufacturing meant. No. Now these applicants go through the training, know what this means. But what the manufacturers were asking us also, they go, you have to know a little bit of math. And so Heartland Community College has put into this curriculum, besides those technical areas we talked about, the safety, the quality, they're doing 1 day of what we call vocational math. And that just beefs up a little bit of math that maybe some of these people haven't had since they were a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
Where do you find 5/8 on a ruler? I've seen that on an application or a screening process, and some people still have a hard time with that. So if you can answer that question, all of a sudden you're a step ahead of everybody else. So we're putting in the resume writing, the interviewing skills as it gets closer to the end of the class, as well as that math component, and they just gave us the thumbs up.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, you know, I'm a former educator, so I want to say it's a two-way street when
He's
it comes
a retarded
to
educator.
it's a two-way street when it comes to helping someone learn something. You have to make sure that you have the basic curriculum that emphasizes things like spelling and basic math skills, etc. But I know from many years' experience that you can put a gun to a student's head, and if they don't want to learn how to add fractions, they could take the bullet instead of learning how to add fractions.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is I'm so pleased that we've added the resume writing skills, the interviewing skills, the basic math skills to this training program that we're offering, because the difference is this time the learners that we're working with want and need to know that. And that's what's often missing, unfortunately, in a public school classroom. Those students are young enough that they don't see the real importance, but the folks we're working with realize, oh, I need to know how to find 5/8 on a ruler because that's going to help me get a job. So,
and the counselors that we've talked to said, yes, they're trying to incorporate this into their students' planning for careers, but sometimes, like Bill said, it's just not sinking in. They complimented us saying, hey, if they come into this very focused training, they see the goal out there. We have speakers that come in and say, this is the kind of job that you're going to get, but this is what you're going to have to put into it. All of a sudden, it makes sense when you're, let's say if you're just coming out of school or off of 26 weeks of unemployment.
This is one of the reasons you're receiving the cooperation that you're receiving from our local manufacturers, and a tip of the hat to them, a big kudo to them for their participation in that. But it's just not all being generous on their part. They're going to receive benefits as a result of this effort, these efforts.
Precisely.
there aren't many of us that do anything unless there's something in it for us.
Oh.
Now, I don't mean to come off as cynical, but that's a basic part of our nature, I think.
I thought you were just all altruistic. No, I didn't realize that.
There is a side, but yeah.
What are you doing for a day job, by the way?
I thought it was coming out here on Wednesdays every once in a while. But I know something we've forgotten to mention that I think is probably pretty crucial, and that's when this program's going to be held.
Exactly.
Specifically this summer.
I'd say that's a little crucial.
Okay, and Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the dates right now are June 15th
Yes.
through August 7th.
And if I remember correctly, we start off with actually a tour, and probably it might go with Eaton, perhaps somebody else, but it gives the example with the instructor and the participants to see, the factory if they haven't been in a factory before. That way they can relate the materials for the next 8 weeks, what they actually saw in the factory. So a good start with the tour, and then they jump right into safety.
Yeah, we did a tour last year at the beginning of the program, and it was out at Eaton, and it was fascinating. I'd been into the offices and the conference rooms for meetings at Eaton before, but never on the plant floor, and that's just really fascinating. That's actually been one of the perks of this job. I've gotten to tour the bottle factory, which is just amazing if you ever get the opportunity to do that. I've toured the two paper factories that we have in town.
And by the way, they're awfully steady employers.
Yes,
They
we're
just
so
day in, day out,
fortunate.
You never hear anything but good things. By the way, I first learned about unions when we brought the bottle factory. It was Knox Glass at the time, the original name, and I was, along with some other high school boys, was hired through a friend who helped bring the Knox Glass in to work out there under the tutelage of somebody who knew what they were doing, and we mechanically were putting together these annealing ovens, and we didn't know how to spell annealing, let alone that. But seriously, we worked a half day. And we took a break for lunch and came back and got back, and the gate was closed on us. The union had discovered that they had some kids out there doing jobs that were taking somebody else's jobs. So that was my first education into what a union was.
I bet I heard about unions when I was 5 years old, because I'm from a coal mining family, and very, very heavily involved in the unions. Yeah, John L. Lewis.
Well,
I had one other comment, though, on the idea on the manufacturers, what's in it for them. Part of our program, we have money, and it's only going to be until the end of the summer at this point for this program, but where we can give an incentive to manufacturers to bring on somebody for on-the-job training. Additional skills that they don't get in the classroom or the laboratories that we provide. They can actually identify what they're going to learn on the factory floor, and we can help incentivize their compensation.
So, as a specific instance, Eaton Industries could have somebody on the floor being trained, and they would receive a small stipend or whatever the amount is for participating in that program.
Exactly. We identify what skills they're going to learn, get the supervisors to sign off that they're learning those skills, and then we, in this case, give 50% reimbursement of their wages for up to 13 weeks.
It's a pretty sweet deal for a manufacturer.
That's not insignificant. No, that's pretty significant, yes.
I thought of something else that I really like about the program that's been put together. It not only provides free training, free transportation is offered. We hold a short commencement or graduation ceremony, if you will, at the end of it. And one of the things I enjoyed most about that last year was we, of course, invited all the participants and their families to come so we could recognize them, give them a certificate of completion. But we also invited the manufacturers to come to that ceremony, because we had prepped our learners ahead of time to have copies of their resumes. Right. So at the end of the graduation ceremony, we had this wonderful experience of learners actually handing resumes directly to folks that would be interested in hiring them and setting up that relationship from the get-go.
I think that helped get two people employed.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Face-to-face in an informal setting.
Is it really a direct hands-on operation?
We like to think so, especially with the bill.
This is not something in theory.
No.
No, we're not sure what the theory is. We're just doing the application.
And it works. And it works.
You had something you wanted to cover.
No, I think I know Bill mentioned the stipend for traveling. We've had people come to Lincoln from Clinton previously, and we gave a little mileage money for people. So as we're broadcasting this in your greater Lincoln, Logan area, people ought to at least go online. I'm going to repeat it. Just ATIM. That's A for A or Adam, T for Tom, I for Ice, and then M as in Mary. If you just type in those initials, you'll get a website, and eventually you can just sort of see what this program's all about, as well as apply or use the phone numbers. You'll see these green flyers around town. Go downtown to the Heartland Center if you want to pick up more information. But we can provide some travel money for people coming into Lincoln every day of the week. We didn't mention that. This is an everyday thing, 4 hours a day, noon to 4, starting in June. We're going to get through this. It's just like working at a job. That's why the manufacturers like it. They want to see if they're going to be reliable. Are they going to show up after the second week, second day?
Let's distill this to the least common denominator, as they say, rather than worry about websites and so forth, getting on the internet. If they want to know something about this, you can go directly down to the Heartland campus on the north side of the square there in Lincoln, Illinois, and find out the easy way.
Perfect.
Yes.
The green flyer.
And specifically, if you really want to find out all the details, show up on Tuesday, May 19th at 4 o'clock at the Heartland Center in downtown Lincoln, or come at noon on Friday, May 22nd.
Yeah.
Both of those are dates of informational meetings, and you'll find out everything you need to know about the program.
You don't need to call ahead of time. It'd be nice if you do get a flyer that you would call, that we know about how many packets of materials to bring. But just show up at those meetings. That's what they're there for. There's no commitment.
Well, we all know that some folks fall through the cracks. and they really don't know what the heck to do. This may be the opportunity for an individual or more to get a hold of something that would give them a better feeling about themselves and to get started at a fresh start, so to speak.
Oh, precisely. We get great testimonials from the applicants that have come through the program, whether or not they get a job. Most of them are getting jobs in the manufacturing area. It's a valuable, hands-on enhancement of their education.
Now, last year we had 8 people in the program. Do we have a target number for this year, Larry?
We'd like to have up to 15. We can handle up to 15 adequately. So that'd be great.
Well, we're just looking at, by the way, I had to run out and buy a ream of paper after I got my printouts from Mr. Thomas and Mr. Peterson.
You can't take the teacher out of me, Bill. I have to do handouts.
We're saving the taxpayers' money. We didn't use the paper.
If this is a federal program, I'll accept remuneration for my...
Check that box on your income tax return, Bill.
Why... If the question, why would employers use this program? And you've listed on here validated schools, skills, and the evaluation tool for them, improved employee selection, advancement procedures, time investment of the candidates is completed testing process, demonstrates their commitment to the job, and so on. This is a real full program, boys.
It is, and it works. We've proven it.
Yeah, it's been
here in
proven.
Lincoln, Quincy, Danville. It works.
National Career Readiness Certification, NCRC. Gosh, I'm bad as a politician. I don't even know the acronyms. But it's refreshing to find something that emanates from on high that is directed specifically down to the folks who really need it.
Right. Well, and from my
through a bureaucracy somewhere along the line.
From my perspective, it's absolutely what our economic development office should be focusing on, because it's helping 2 clients. It's helping unemployed folks in our county find gainful employment, and it's helping our manufacturers that already exist in the county want to stay and continue their operations in our county because they know they're going to have a qualified workforce, the kinds of folks that they want to hire. So that's what we're all about.
Exactly.
Well, that probably is a pretty good summation for our morning. Larry Peterson and Bill Thomas, we thank you very much for giving us your time this morning.
You're welcome.
Hopefully disseminate some information that would be directly helpful to one or more individuals. We always try to close the program with something that is supposed to relate some analogous to the subject of the day. I found this... not sure. Here, I'm going to try this. All unemployment compensation should be tied to a job training requirement. And then the fact is, 99 weeks could make an associate degree. Well, I'm not sure how valid that is, but it's pretty close. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, thank you for the opportunity,
Appreciate
Bill.
you being with us. Right.